Tonight, earthquake north of Grand Cache. The tremor could be felt as far away as Fort St. John. More accountability. A Peace Region rancher calling out the BC energy regulator. Serious accident. 3 people rushed to hospital after crash near Wanaway. Well, good evening and thank you very much for joining us. And we begin tonight with an earthquake in northern Alberta striking south of Grand Prairie. The 5.2 magnitude quake could be felt as far away as Prince George. Now, Earthquakes Canada says the quake struck this morning at 8:41. The epicenter is 5 kilometers deep, halfway between Grand Prairie and Grand Cache. The agency's website says it was felt in Fort St. John, Taylor, and Dawson Creek. Earthquakes Canada suspects the cause was from fracking in the area from an energy company. The largest quake to hit Alberta was back in 2022. The 5.7 magnitude quake struck 40 kilometers south of Peace River. That too was caused by hydraulic fracking. And the earthquake in Alberta is one of just many to hit our region. After years that energy companies in North BC have been causing quakes due to fracking. Now one Peace Region rancher is saying enough is enough. He's calling on the BC energy regulator to do a better job of holding oil and gas companies accountable. And as Jeff Cunha reports, those energy companies have been affecting his family's ranch, and he wants it to stop.
A run of calves left shaken and a natural spring now down to a trickle at the Dead Horse Creek Cattle Ranch near Wanaway. The cause, according to one resident, 2 earthquakes triggered by hydraulic fracking.
It's continuously being getting worse and more frequent to this point where we're at now.
Paralympian and rancher Bo Hedges says a premature set of calf twins were birthed right after the earthquakes.
For the next basically 2.5, 3 days, all of them are kind of on edge, which probably led to the more calves coming out in the end.
Hedges says the BC energy regulator is downplaying recent quakes despite years of reported tremors and criticizes the agency's lack of transparency, calling their approach simply reactionary.
There needs to be more of a proactive monitoring and regulation around it.
The BCER releasing a technical update saying they are now taking steps to strengthen oversight of seismic activity in Northeast BC. Special project orders will see operations of energy companies suspended immediately after a magnitude 3 or above quake in the Farmington area. Operations in the greater Wanaway Pink Mountain region will automatically be suspended after a quake of 4.0 or higher.
It took something like that for them to finally implement something that they've been working on or said they've been working on for quite some time.
Earthquakes Canada reported 2 earthquakes were felt in Fort St. John less than 2 hours apart on February 11th and 12th, hitting at a depth of 5 kilometers, the intensity of the quakes ranging between a magnitude 3.8 and 4.3. The BCER confirming to CJDC-TV they were caused by tourmaline fracking.
It hasn't been until recently where with the fracking coming in and that sort of thing, where it's starting to consistently affect kind of our lifestyle and our ranching business itself.
Hedges not holding it against the energy companies, saying they're only doing what's within their regulations. There were no reports of damage, according to Earthquakes Canada. However, there is also no sign of activity slowing down.
We're going to have a company that's going to frack within eyeshot distance of our ranch house right across the valley here come this summer some point. And so that's very concerning to us.
We reached out to the BCER for an interview and comment on resident concerns and the changes being implemented. Our repeated attempts today going unanswered. Last week, however, they did tell us that processes are in place and they are in contact with the companies involved to ensure public safety. In Fort St. John, Jeff Cunha, CJDC-TV News.
3 people were rushed to hospital following a 4-vehicle collision on Highway 97 this morning. RCMP, fire and ambulance responding to the scene just before 8 a.m. And as you can see, a smashed pickup truck blocking southbound traffic near the Shepherd's Inn. Now, RCMP say the vehicle was at a complete stop attempting to make a left-hand turn when it was rear-ended. The truck was pushed to the shoulder. The vehicle that hit it ended up spinning and blocking traffic on the highway. 2 other vehicles traveling north and southbound trying to avoid the accident. They ended up in ditches on the side of the road. 3 people were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The highway was down to single-lane alternating traffic until the accident was cleared. It has since been fully reopened. Mounties arresting 5 people, including a violent offender, after a truck was stolen in Fort St. John. Police say a pickup truck was stolen from a home on 112 Avenue Wednesday morning. Later that night, witnesses spotted the truck stuck near 277 Road in Montney. The suspects were still at the scene, and police say they pointed firearms at the witnesses that spotted the vehicle. The North District Emergency Response Team was called in from Prince George along with a drone. After searching the area, the suspects were arrested. 3 vehicles, including the stolen truck, were seized. Gavin Davis was arrested on outstanding warrants. Now, at the beginning of February, Fort St. John Mounties asked for the public help in finding the 35-year-old. Davis has a long and violent criminal history, and police said at the time, if you see him, do not approach him. Davis and 4 other suspects remain in police custody. Well, the province is responding to a hate crime investigation underway in Fort St. John. It comes after the Tribal 8 Treaty Association reporting hate symbols spray painted on the side of their building in Fort St. John this weekend. Swastikas were spray painted on the side of the building on 100th Avenue, along with a message about children. The swastika, long associated with anti-Semitism, has also become a symbol of hatred and racial bias. Well, now the Minister of Indigenous Relations is denouncing the racist and anti-Indigenous vandalism. Christine Boyle says, quote, hate crimes, racist remarks, and hate speech have no place whatsoever in British Columbia. It is upsetting, it is hurtful, and it takes us backwards, unquote. The minister says the provincial government stands with the Treaty 8 nations and community leaders. Mounties say their investigation remains ongoing, and they're looking to gather video surveillance. Police are asking anyone with any information to contact the Fort St. John RCMP detachment. Well, some people who work on the front lines of BC's drug crisis are worried about new changes to BC's Safe Supply program announced yesterday. They say the move from the province is going to create unnecessary barriers for those that use it. It means people who rely on prescription opioids must now take those drugs under the supervision of a pharmacist instead of taking those drugs home. The change comes after months of criticism that the program allowed the diversion of so-called safer supply into the wrong hands, causing death and fueling gang activity. But advocates now say the change will only cause more harm to those struggling with addiction issues.
You cannot expect somebody who is working 7 days a week to actually start going to a pharmacy 3-4 times a day. What will happen then is that it will probably deter people from the program and their recovery journey and drive them back to the unregulated drug supply.
The Conservative leader John Roustad criticized Premier David Eby on the issue during the province's legislature's first question period in 9 months. Roustad accusing Eby of gaslighting the public about the impact of the safer supply system. A ministry memo acknowledged the significant amount of opioids were being diverted and trafficked by criminals intentionally. The Safe Supply program has just under 4,000 patients. Well, now to a troubling case of sex trafficking that's emerging tonight involving a 13-year-old BC girl. A man has pleaded guilty in Alberta to trafficking the child. And as CTV's Michelle Bernaro reports, advocates say more resources are needed to protect vulnerable children. And a warning, the details of this case are disturbing.
His name is Cameron Alexander, and Crown Counsel says he's pleaded guilty in an Edmonton court to trafficking someone under 18 and obstruction of justice. According to an agreed-upon statement of facts, the accused was 29 at the time of the offenses. When he met the girl in BC in 2022, she was just 12. Court documents indicate the accused had previously acted as a driver and bodyguard for the girl who had been engaged in activity involving adult men paying her money so they could engage in sex acts with her. After being reported missing in BC, police found her in an undercover operation linked to online sex ads in Fort McMurray. The accused was later arrested in Vancouver on a Canada-wide warrant. While at a remand center in Edmonton, court documents say he repeatedly spoke with the girl despite a no-contact order, telling her to say she didn't remember anything. The agreed-upon statement of facts also say Alexander encouraged the girl to recruit other women to become sex workers and then to send him the money. Sue Brown with Justice for Girls says BC needs to do more to fight human trafficking.
What we know from our work generally is that girls as young as 10 and 11 and 12 can be groomed and lured into trafficking, and it seems as though the ages become younger and younger.
She says that while our province funds prevention programs, it falls short when it comes to protection for young trafficking survivors.
We don't see that we have specialized safe houses for children who have been trafficked, for example, in British Columbia. We don't see that we have specialized victim services workers who are adequately resourced and available throughout the province.
She points to Ontario, where there is specific legislation to keep victims safe and dedicated prosecutors and police. The accused returns to court in Edmonton later this week. Crown says it's asking for a sentence of 9 years prison. The defense wants 5.5. Michelle Bernoro, CTV News, Langley.
A 15-year-old boy is now facing first-degree murder charges. It's in relation to a quadruple homicide on a Saskatchewan First Nation. The teenager, who cannot be identified, was scheduled to appear in a Regina court today. 18-year-old Darius Rossett was also arrested for killing 2 women and 2 men. It happened at a house on Carry the Kettle, Nakota Nation on February the 4th. Police say the home was targeted, but have not provided a possible motive. Canada's top court has dismissed an appeal from a man convicted of manslaughter in the death of 2 Métis hunters in Alberta. Roger Bilodeau and his son Anthony were both found guilty in the 2020 shooting deaths of Maurice Cardinal and Jacob Sansom near Glendon, Alberta. Roger Bilodeau was convicted of manslaughter and given a 10-year sentence. Well, the Supreme Court of Canada has now dismissed his appeal. Canada's top court has also dismissed a leave to appeal by Anthony Bilodeau in November of last year. He was convicted of manslaughter and second-degree murder and is serving a 13-year sentence. Now to the follow-up on the Delta Airlines crash on Monday at Pearson International Airport. Delta says the final 2 passengers who were still in hospital have been cleared to go home. 80 people were on board the flight from Minneapolis when it crashed and flipped upside down. Delta's CEO now says all 21 patients who were sent to hospital are now out. The carrier also offering $30,000 US in goodwill payments. It says it won't impact passengers' options to pursue legal actions. The remnant of the jet removed from the tarmac at Pearson yesterday, although 2 runways remain closed today, while the Transportation Board of Canada tries to figure out exactly what caused the accident. A bombshell announcement out of Charlottetown. The Premier of Prince Edward Island is stepping down. Dennis King says his decision is in the best interest of his family, the government, and the people of PEI.
Complicated with the threats of tariffs and the threats to our country's sovereignty and economic uncertainty, and realizing that those aren't going to be simple issues that are going to disappear in a few days or weeks. They will require the attention every minute of every day for the next 4 years. And that really helped me determine that it was best for me to hand the baton of leadership to someone who can be focused for the long term.
King has been premier since May of 2019, and his party was then re-elected for a second mandate back in 2023. King says he is in good health, but he always knew he didn't want to be a lifer in politics. He says a new leader will be chosen in the hours ahead, and that person will become the new premier when he steps down. A new poll suggests more than a quarter of Canadians now see the United States as an enemy. That according to new data from Leger. It says 30% of Canadians still consider the U.S. an ally and 27% are neutral on the subject. The poll comes as U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to impose economically devastating tariffs on Canada and has repeatedly pushed the idea that Canada should become a U.S. state. Well, back here at home, the province of BC and the city of Dawson Creek has proclaimed this as Heritage Week. And to celebrate, the South Peace Historical Society has teamed up with Macwood Productions. They'll be viewing silent movies starting Friday at the Dawson Creek Seniors Hall.
It's not just about watching a movie, it's really about bringing people together and giving people something to do, and not only seniors, but the whole community. Everybody's welcome.
We're doing 4 different showings. So the first one is Buster Keaton's The General that we're showing on Friday. And that one's going to be great. That's a hour and 20 minutes, I want to say. And then the other films, we're still deciding, but keep posted on the South Peace Historical Society's Facebook.
This year's theme is pastimes and past times, and what better way to bring people together. Macwood Production has donated the reel-to-reel projector and the silent films. And as Grady mentioned, they are kicking off things tomorrow with Buster Keaton's classic, The General. There'll be free popcorn and refreshments. The film will be shown every second Friday. The movies begin at 4 p.m. and are free to anyone to attend. All right, good stuff there. We'll be right back with weather, but as we head to break, here's a look at today's closing market numbers.